All right, episode 136, Joel Fleischman Happy Hour Podcast. We have, I don't know who's the mayor of Kewaskum. Okay, so Sam Lemler is the mayor of Kewaskum, and we have the secretary of Kewaskum, Tony Steger. Both, soon to be both on the infrastructure team. Tony's there right now as infrastructure coordinator, and Sam Lemler is going to be moving over here soon from field specialist to project manager in the infrastructure side. So cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers. So, how are things? Thanks for joining. Good?
Things are good.
Yeah?
Weather's getting nice. Can't complain.
I was trying to do a little bit of a prep, which usually for these podcasts is probably like 15 minutes, right? Just kind of deep diving or asking questions of people around the office if they know people better. And found out that Sam Lemler was quite the high school football player. If you've been on Huddle before, I would recommend checking that out whenever this episode releases. First team all-defensive guy, had 7 touchdowns as a senior on the ground.
Something like that.
4.5 sacks, 14 tackles for loss. Was an absolute animal. I don't know how schools missed out on this. It's a bad job recruiting by a lot of coaches out there. And then Tony Steger was decent in his own right. Ended up going and playing at EWO. Had a heck of a career, all-conference guy, and unfortunately, senior year, tore up the old knee.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you guys miss most about the good old Friday Night Lights back in Kewaskum?
Definitely just being a part of the team, being with the boys again, and having the old coaches back there, and I don't know, just the culture. I mean, it was just, we had a winning culture. Everyone showed up to work. I mean, it just seemed like if you were involved, a part of that team, you just, I don't know, you were all one. You were all united as one, and I don't know, I miss that, especially there and at Oshkosh. I mean, just being a part of something that's bigger than yourself, everyone working towards one goal, and yeah.
And I've talked to you before. I never talked to you on this because I didn't know you played football in high school until I looked it up. But Bobby Banish, I've known Bobby for a long time. Friends of my sister-in-law, so just it's funny how I met him years ago and whatnot. And obviously you did some coaching this last year.
Yep.
Did that kind of fill a void from being a part of a team? Or how different was that for you, obviously being on the other side of things?
It was definitely different. I liked it. It was challenging. As I played and as I was in my leadership roles and as a captain, I always felt like I led by example. So I was just, here, watch this. This is how it's done. This is how I do it, that kind of deal. But it was totally different from a coach's perspective, like breaking down, different X's and O's for receivers, and then just taking things a little deeper, making sure that I want to be a good resource for these young guys on and off the field, just taking advice and sharing my opinion, sharing my experience of the good things and the bad things I wish I would have done different, things I wish I would have done more of, and just ultimately teach them as best I can, give them the guidance I can, and watching them grow. So I'm excited for this next year. I mean, regardless of the record, there's a lot of wins that we had, a lot of good things that happened, and a good foundation that we have to grow from. So, and having some of the older coaches back that coached me when I was there, like Bobby Banish, Nick Kreif, Jason Lass is coming back. Those guys are awesome. They made a huge impact on me playing, and our whole team, our whole class. That's where the winning culture kind of started, and having those guys back and then having some younger coaches back in that combination, I think is going to be awesome. And hopefully we can pull off a couple wins this year and just grow from last year.
Absolutely. So Sam Lemler, you're going to finish school at Kewaskum. What kind of direction or what were you looking at as you were finishing school? And I guess speeding that up from I'm finishing school to you arrive at Drexel, what was all happening kind of in between there?
Yeah, it was kind of a shit show, honestly. COVID had hit, so we were kind of in shambles. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had been doing some nursing, kind of CNA stuff at Kettle Moraine Gardens, so I figured I'd go that route once school ended. And then tried it out for a year. COVID was pretty bad then, and it was kind of...
Where were you at for that for a year?
I went to Oshkosh for one semester. Drank a lot, but did well in school, I will say. So
Osh Vegas.
Yeah. And then I transferred to... The dorms were just kind of... It was rough. I mean, you had to eat your meals in the dorms. I didn't meet anybody. I would go to the gym for my 20-minute time slot, and classes were virtual. So then I transferred to Moraine Park for a semester, and then dropped out and went back to framing houses, and was going for construction management at that point. And then actually Joel and through Chad Cook had mentioned that they were starting an offsite Blue Crew in West Bend, and jumped on the opportunity, and it's kind of how I got to working at Drexel.
So how long did it take you to become a field specialist then?
I was with the crew for about a year and a half. I was part-time while I was finishing school, and then after I got done with school, I joined the crew full-time, and then transitioned over to field specialist role.
And what time was that, roughly, where you transferred over field specialist?
Oh, boy. I think I've been doing field specialist.
23 or something like that? Late 23 maybe?
Yeah. Maybe end of summer of 23.
Okay.
So
okay.
Just over a year and a half, probably.
Yeah. And then, Tony, you finished up with school, and obviously you were doing rehab with your knee and everything, and you came into Drexel and started off as a merchant, right? And then you transitioned over to infrastructure coordinators, I'm trying to think, 6 months ago? How long ago was that?
Yep, that was in January. I made that transition.
Okay. So how have things been since entering Drexel? Is it what you thought it would be? Obviously, I'm assuming you knew a lot of people, being from the area. It seems like everybody in Campbellsport and Kewaskum are fully understanding of what Drexel is and stuff like that. But what was kind of the ride like for you?
I didn't know, kind of from looking from the outside in, I didn't really know what Drexel was truly about. I mean, I knew, the Supply Happiness and, Blue Crew, and, just I didn't know all the details and how much of a team and team atmosphere and the culture of everything. But after, when I got hired and started meeting people, I got the hint pretty quick that everyone has the same goal, and the person matters before whatever else matters. They hire the best people. They're going to find where your passion meets your talent, and then if you show up with a good attitude and bring your best effort, you should make it here. And I don't know, I really like it. I've completely loved it so far. Like I said, I've been here for just over a year now. I graduated with a PE degree, physical education, going to be a gym teacher, which honestly, when I graduated, I just never wanted to put a ceiling over myself for what career opportunities were to come my way. And I never really enjoyed the school environment, so I'm like...
You probably did it more so for coaching, if I'm not mistaken, right? Just taking a guess, was there a little bit of that?
It was a little bit of that, and the workload in school, like playing football, and it was between construction management / project management when I first was picking my major, or being a teacher. I didn't know what route I really wanted to go with, but eventually the workload seemed a little easier, a little more attainable for the PE side, so I stuck with that. But again, I just never want to put a ceiling on myself, and always took any opportunity. Always considered everything, and it just led me to kind of the construction field, kind of Drexel is the good balance of construction. Now it's like not too much of the hands-on, but yet knowing the sequence of everything and the whole coordinating part. Everything just kind of all came together really nice, which, that's just, if I would have never considered this opportunity, of course, it would have never really ended up here. I would have been teaching somewhere, doing something that, who knows what, but...
Yeah, it's always interesting, like, both your stories are spot on, right? You're going to go for nursing. Obviously, COVID throws a huge wrench into that. You're doing, I'm going to either do construction, I'm going to do PE, I go PE, now you're coming back to almost like the construction field in some ways. But it's always interesting from, like, coaching college basketball and working in higher ed for 12 years, like, this is the story it's been that way for how long? And it still happens to this day, right? Where, like, 18, you got to figure out what you're going to do, and you go do it. And really, you have no background. You had a little CNA stuff, right? So there's a little bit of a, hey, this is what I want to do. But how many people go through it almost not sure if that's truly what they want to do? I always say, like, with hockey and how, like, they go play juniors for 2 years before they come and actually go to college. And in so many ways, those guys are so locked in with what they want to do because they had 2 years to kind of grow up. They're away from home. They're playing their sport that they enjoy. And I'm like, if that model, like, fit everywhere at higher ed, where you literally took 2 years off to almost go do something you think you want to do, I think people would be so much better coming into college 2 years later as opposed to just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's the toughest part, I feel like, for any seniors graduating right now. Like, not to rip on the education system, but I don't think there's enough courses that are preparing you for like what you want to do or trying to get you to figure out exactly what you want to do. And then you might go the college route and figure out this ain't for me, and then you're back, you wasted how much money, you're back to square one of like, shit, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
I don't know, I really struggled with that myself. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, then you see people your age then too, right, that are maybe on a path that they've stayed with and they're doing well, and you're like, shit, I've already invested this money, I've invested 2 years. Now if I go transfer, then that'll process, right? Do I want to go further back? That's a podcast for another day of how long that is. But I agree with you. Like, there's got to be a fundamental better way to do that. I guess you guys both being from Kewaskum, did you ever think you'd be at Drexel Building Supply? I mean, like you said, you kind of knew a little bit of what it was, but
I knew a little bit of what it was, but no, I never saw the vision of, I can see myself working there. I could fit in really well until honestly I graduated, and I was just kind of evaluating everything, seeing what I truly wanted to do, and then. I have buddies like Jordan Carlton, Sam Slosher, Trent Griesmer. Those are some of the guys that worked here already. And when I was looking for a job, I reached out to them, just kind of asking some general questions about Drexel, and they said nothing but great things, and they thought it'd be a pretty good fit for it. And yeah, that helps. Hearing that coming from guys that you grew up with. So
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have this crystal clear vision. I never really did. I honestly, going through school, even going through college, I was PE major, taking all the courses and everything. But again, any opportunity that was to come from that, I was totally considering everything. Like, never gonna put a ceiling on anything.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, when I started offsite, it was pretty fresh, and before that, like Drexel was, we supply lumber. That's what we do. So. The guys that I knew that worked at Drexel were, most of them were my age, that were kind of yard guys that eventually would work their way up into a sales position. So I didn't really think too much of it. I had always thought like I would maybe like to, when I was younger, get into sales, and maybe lumber sales would be a thing to do. But I didn't really think anything of it until, I heard about offsite, and that was kind of my foot in the door as I had that carpentry experience. So.
And how much has changed from you seeing the field specialist role for almost 2 years now? Well, obviously, you've seen offsite longer, being a part of the Blue Crew, but what have you seen in terms of changes with that from a Drexel perspective, being involved in whether it was Blue Crew, field specialist, just seeing the offsite world on a day-to-day?
It's way, way, way more dialed in than it ever was. The scheduling, the pricing, I mean, everything, it's light years past of what used to be like, hey, just go and build this house because we got to get it done. Now it's dialed into a science of like, we have an OTIF date, we have a labor number figured out, we have 30 set crews that are all, working with us. I mean, everything about it is, and not even to mention the actual product itself. The product itself has come so far. Some of the things we do with pre-built pocket doors, it's crazy how far it's come, truly.
Yeah. And infrastructure-wise, obviously you're going to be transitioning over that, and infrastructure within Drexel, I feel like since I've been here for 4.5 years, there's always projects, right? There's always things, whether it's additions or new buildings or whatever. But I feel like obviously the resources we put in that area, it's like continuing to blow up as we continue to get bigger. I guess, Tony, what have you seen from being in that role now 6 months from an infrastructure standpoint of just our day-to-day? And again, I feel like it's one of the areas where I think people are all aware of our internal teams, whether it's John Gitter or whoever else is out and about doing internal projects, but there's so many things that are going on a day-to-day. I mean, what have you seen in 6 months being in that role?
Organization and high communication is like the top two things. I mean, that was what was emphasized when I got hired. Like, those are two areas that the infrastructure team could really use, and that's what I wanted to bring to the table of just organizing. I mean, knowing what we need to do today, knowing what we need to, what's going on 6 months from now and a year from now, what's coming down the pipeline. And as we're going through projects, I mean, every day you can't communicate it enough. I mean, whether it's working with subs or whether it's working with just our in-house team of letting store leaders know what's going on or yard leaders know what's going on, and yeah, just making sure that everyone's at the right place at the right time, and that our priorities are completely transparent within our team and across the company, so everyone knows exactly what we're up to. And yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot of things going on, but one thing that helped me out a lot at first, it's nice to schedule out everything, like knowing what what you have to all do to get to the finish line can get overwhelming, though, looking at like, okay, this is everything we have to do. Okay, now breaking that down into what can I do today to, complete today to make sure that tomorrow's going to be good. What leads to the next thing, and instead of just looking at this long to-do list, like, I got to do this, I got to do this, got to do this, it's like, what do I need to do today? What does our team need to do today to, keep things moving forward? So I'm definitely learning. I mean, there's a lot of learning experience in this position and as our team as a whole, but I think as far as, like I said, the organization and communication are the two things that I think we're really what was struggling with early on, and hopefully I'm just making that making improvements on that, and it'll help when Sam joins the team for sure. I mean, we can't have enough hands on deck in our team, and yeah.
How much of that role right now is dedicated to Kewaskum? Like, if you had to put a percentage on it.
Currently, I would say probably 90% is Kewaskum right now. Sure. I mean, just getting everything fully operating is number one, top priority for sure. I mean, any help that we get within our team, with our 3 new young guys now, and any offsite help that we can get, I mean, they pretty much are sent right to Kewaskum and just get things to the finish line. It's come a long ways, though. I mean, the office is really close of fully operating, and Brady pretty much runs with all of the production side of that, but everything else is pretty much the infrastructure team, and with the fulfillment team, just coordinating with them too, just to keep things moving, get everything in the right place. It's come a long ways, though.
Sam, what do you think? I know you're not fully in that role yet, but how similar, or I guess what will the differences be going from field specialist to an infrastructure project manager? I'm assuming a little bit of similarities there in some ways of what you're doing, even though it's not necessarily all related to offsite things. But how similar or dissimilar do you think it's going to be until you truly get in there?
I mean, the similar thing is it's construction. So the one thing about construction is you never know what's going to happen. You might show up for a day and get turned in 12 other directions. But ultimately, you're doing the
Hopefully
same.
That's not because Tony sent you in 12 different directions.
Right.
Only sometimes.
Right. But no, you're doing the same thing. Ultimately, you're working with a team to build. In this case, it's going to be more, commercial type stuff or remodels versus like building someone's dream house. But you're doing all the same stuff for the most part. The one thing I learned about construction being in it is like everything kind of coincides with what you're doing. So like you're framing a wall, and then 5 months down the road, that wall is going to be drywalled. You might be hanging that door. So I think that's kind of the stuff that coincides, is like you might be doing one specific task one day, and then down the road you're going to be doing something that is ultimately affected by that task that you did. So I don't know where I'm getting at.
No, but I understand how you're saying, like, right, the work you're doing now, if it's not done right or to
Absolutely.
quality level,
right,
and you get down the road, you're like, well, now I got to go back, which is going to cost time and money if I even can, or whatever, right? Like,
right, exactly. So,
and what'd you learn from building your own house that way? I mean, was that kind of the eye-opener? Obviously, you had the experience you're talking about from doing this and having an interest from a young age, but was that an eye-opener to you, or did all the stuff and the work you did leading up to that really kind of help prepare you through a lot of those challenges where you're like, if I do this wrong, right, it's going to cost me?
Totally. There's so much to say about that, building your own house, but
separate podcast, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things that I did that I probably was not qualified to do, but I relied on a lot of people to learn how to do it, and it took probably a lot longer than it should have.
Sure.
I ended up doing my own foundation, which I don't know shit about concrete, other than you build a house on it.
You do now.
Yeah, exactly. So, to that point though, like if you screw something up, you're gonna see it down the road, especially when you're the guy that's doing the work. In today's industry, there's a lot of set subcrews or subcontractors that you have one guy that frames it, a different guy will side it, a different guy will roof it, a different guy. Versus like when you're doing it all yourself, with help, of course, you're thinking a lot more about, hey, I got to make sure that this is plumb level and square, so that when I go back to install this, it'll fit right. So there's a lot of forethinking of like your task now is going to affect what you're doing later.
Sure. What's it like working under, we haven't given him a shout out yet, under Nate Sippel's team? So I feel like Nate's got all these different things going on, right? You got the scheduling, you have installers, you got offsite, you got infrastructure. I mean, there's all these things. I'm probably missing like 3 or 4 things just in mentioning those. But like, what's it like working under Nate? Kind of different guidance that he might give to you guys.
Nate's awesome. I mean, he has so much experience and knowledge where it's like just one 5-minute conversation, I could take a whole page of notes. I mean, just from all the construction experience, whether it's, again, with offsite or with infrastructure. I mean, he can give all of his experiences with setting up the whole Columbus yard, setting up New Berlin's yard. I mean, like, there's so many just nuggets that he just has where he explains it so crystal clear where it's like, I totally understand you. Like, it's just so easy to understand how he's really good at explaining things where it's like, I truly understand it. It's not just, beating around the bush or whatever, but no, he's awesome. Great leader. I really like working with him though, because it's like any crazy issue that I have or anything that I just need some clarity on, it's like bing boom, here's your answer, here's what I would do, and go on with it. So I can learn. I mean, I want to learn as much as I can from him and John Gitter, of course, too. But it's been awesome so far.
Yeah, kind of like Tony said. I mean, Nate's been around the block and around the Drexel world for a long time, so I don't think there's much that, aside from maybe the sales side, that Nate hasn't seen or been a part of. The guy is super smart, really a black and white thinker. He has
That's a great way to put that, actually. That's a really good way to put that.
Yeah, he has an idea of how it's supposed to be. But he also challenges you to, like, get you to think, like, hey, maybe you do have a better idea than I do. But if you do, come to me and we'll discuss it, and we'll get to the best solution there is. That's the one thing I really like about Nate is he's willing to hear anybody out over anything. But he gets you to think, what is our end goal? What is the best way to get there without essentially cutting through a bunch of fluff? Yeah.
That's really well said, because I didn't even think of that until you just mentioned that. But I feel like, obviously, a ton of smart people here. We're always changing, growing, bringing ideas. But I feel like he's the one person that just the way he's wired, like you said, you could bring up any topic, like how to make a grilled cheese better, right? Like, it doesn't matter what the topic would be, and he's got a systematic way, but he's open to listening, but it's like he wants to see that you've almost thought it out as well, too, right?
Yeah,
like, it's not just like
absolutely.
you're like, which, again, to anybody, right, is a good way. You want to bring ideas and bring a plan to it, but, like, again, cut out the fluff. How are we going to get there? I'm open to listening, but, like, let's see that you actually figured it or thought it out, as opposed to just like, hey, I got an idea here, and it's like, okay, cool, we could sit looking at a board for however long, like, bring some actual juice to, or some meat to what you're actually bringing here.
Definitely. And he'll challenge you. Like, if you take an idea to him that's not fully developed, he'll be like, come back to me with that. And once you're ready, like, we'll discuss this and see how we can make it better. Because Nate's one of those guys that once he comes up with an issue or sees an issue, he's already forward thinking on, like, how are we going to resolve this in the cleanest possible manner? So, yeah, great leader.
Yeah. About 25 minutes in here. We can jump to the billboard. If you had one billboard, and maybe, did I tell you guys about the billboard?
I don't think so.
You can tell us anything.
All right, perfect. Well, here's billboard. So you got one billboard. We do this every podcast. I failed to mention this to you guys. But we got a billboard. It's on 41, 94, 151, whatever highway you want to be on. It's a busy highway that everybody would see. It's just one message. Could be a quote, could be one word, could be a saying, could be a freaking poem. Whatever you want, something that means something to you and you want the world to see. Could be family-related, work-related, personally. If somebody was driving by your billboard, what would it say and why? And we'll go to Tony first.
Tony first. Let me think here. I'd say first thing that came to my mind, pressure is a privilege. Of course, I was being an athlete for so long. Like, if you don't feel pressure in certain moments, no matter what it is, I think it just doesn't matter as much. And yeah, I don't know. I think just even in the professional world now, like if you don't feel a little pressure in any decisions that you make, I feel like they just don't mean as much, or they won't make as much of an effect as what you think. So yeah, pressure's a privilege. Put it on a billboard. Put it on 41. Put my ugly mug on there and thumbs up.
So your face would be on there.
Yeah, pressure's a privilege.
There you go. Very good. Sam?
I would probably say, like, always stay humble and kind, Tim McGraw's song. But I think that in today's day and age, you can get so caught up with whatever it may be that everybody is chasing, if it's money or, you know, a nicer house or a nicer car. I think that it's important to remember, like, what are the true things that matter in life? And, you know, the impressions that you make on other people are worth probably a lot more than how much your house is worth, or, you know, what car you have, or an up north property, or whatever it may be for everybody. I would say that, yeah, and I always try and remind myself of that when I think that I need something new or need to impress people. It's like, just take a deep breath, relax, be humble about what you do, and be kind to everybody.
Love that. Great song. One of my favorites as well, too. If you had to have a place up north, money wasn't a cost, right? We're not talking about what the build would
Sturgeon
be.
Bay.
Sturgeon Bay, Door County guy, huh?
Sturgeon Bay, huh?
Shout out Alex Bailey, Sturgeon Bay.
Oh.
Yep.
And
yep.
DVD, I think, too. Actually, maybe DVD's not from Sturgeon Bay, but he's from somewhere over that way. Tony,
I'd go to Madeline Island,
where's that? Sturgeon Bay?
Lake Superior, way up in Lake Superior. One of my good college buddies, he's got a place up there, and you take a ferry to get over there, and it's like cool. It feels like an escape up there. I mean,
Is that by Bayfield?
Bayfield, yep.
Bayfield, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
You go to Bayfield, yeah, take the ferry over there, and that place is awesome. You see black bear running around, and cool environment up there.
Well, the right answer was Antigo, Wisconsin. Shout out to my people, but we'll let it slide. 136, we're out.